Hey guys, it's Kim from Honey Trail Farm, and before we hop into today's video, here's a little sneak peek of what we're doing today, but don't look too much. I just wanted to let you know that I will be launching my Patreon channel, which is so exciting. I've gone back and forth a lot of times, but I feel like if I put you behind a very small paywall, for one, I can share uncensored things, not in the way you think, get your mind out of the gutter, but things that YouTube won't let me say sometimes. That, and it's a place where we can be casual together. I'm going to use that. I'm watching a hawk swoop down in my hayfield, and that's super cool. It looks like it's floating. Anyway, ADD. It's a place where I can share more casual photo and video of my day and what I'm doing and recipes and all the things that don't exactly fit onto my YouTube platform. I am going to put there, as well as all of the slides that Jeff Lawton has given me for my food forest. There are 24 maps on there. So if you are a geek and you want to geek out on all things permaculture, there are different tiers. It starts at $5 a month. That's like not even the price of one coffee from your favorite coffee place. Obviously, there are higher tiers if that is something that you're into, but feel no pressure to go to a higher tier. I just have big hopes and dreams and aspirations and projects, and they all cost money. But that is a place where I can dive in deeper in a more casual setting to tell you all the things that I got rattling up inside my brain, because I have been working day in and day out. I don't know if you've noticed my absence, but I have been just learning my little heart out. I have been working on my permaculture design course, which is very fun, very knowledgeable. Does my head look bigger to you? Because I'm pretty sure my brain has grown. I'm almost completed. I just have a few more chapters left, and that is a place where I can show you all of the little extras that I've learned. So if you are big into learning more about permaculture or gardening, or you just want to support us here on the farm, Patreon is a great way that you can do that. And so before we get into the video, I had to put that little tidbit in. So without further ado, goodbye and hello. This is my front yard, and this used to be landscaped. Yep, it's embarrassing. It's right when you drive up. It's wayward, wonky. There's a tree growing out of a tree. This Weigela, I think that's how you say it, is like way too big to be in front. My front door is over there, and so it's just not giving a welcoming, inviting, I love plants vibe. It's giving like dilapidated, abandoned property. And it's time that I can focus on this. Up here in front of my house, you can see all around me, is 1/10 of an acre. Probably an average size yard in a suburban household, in a neighborhood, in wherever. And I don't use it. I spend all of my time in the back, so all of this up here is just kind of wasted space. But while normally you would want to grow on a flat place, I have lots of flat area that I do grow on, and I'm excited to use my knowledge, not that this is any kind of a slope in reality, but there is a slight hill here, and I'm excited to see what I can do with it and use the different zones and areas and little microclimates to create a magical garden area, food forest garden in my front yard. Step one, though, is I'm going to cover up this ugly, terrible, I'm not attached to any of the plants that are in here amongst the thistle and the wild violets and the grass and whatever other kind of weeds are in here. I'm not attached to anything really. I've only planted myself maybe a couple of these plants, and honestly, I don't care to see them go, because I grew them from seed and I still can do that again. So as I'm trying to think of how I can relate to the everyday gardener, you see cats behind me. Because it might be intimidating to some to see how big some people grow on scale, like me. I have 20 acres of pasture area or yard or whatever that I could do whatever I wanted with. Majority of people don't have that option. So I kind of wanted to show you, for one, how my beautification process of the literal front of my house that is ugly and embarrassing, but also how I can show you how you can grow on a small scale with manageable, easily acquired items, and ultimately so that you can have success growing in your yard. Because why would you ever need just green grass yard when you could have food? So my first order of business, this is step one of beautifying my front yard. A company that has raised metal garden beds, I think that you pronounce it Vijega. That's how I'm gonna pronounce it, and I'm just gonna pretend that it's right. But they were kind enough to send me a couple of their garden beds so that I can try it out and show you how you can do the same thing. And so this is going to be several installments of videos on beautifying my front yard. So obviously this first option, buying raised beds, isn't for everyone, but it's a very accessible option. So if you don't have the resources to build beds, and if you don't have carpentry skills or the means to do it or the hand tools involved, these metal garden beds are actually a great option. They're not biodegradable, so they're gonna last a really, really long time. The maintenance on them is super simple because I'm going to do other videos where I can show you how to use like logs and things that you might have, but those are ultimately gonna need replaced eventually because the soil and the soil biota is going to break them down and turn them into food for your garden, but then you have to redo it. With these metal garden beds, not only are they gonna be beautiful, especially right here in front of my house, they're also going to hold up to the elements. So without further ado, I'm gonna open these and then I'm gonna call my husband so that he can put them together for me, because I could do it, but also he could do it. Hey, will you come put these together for me?
Yep, see you in a minute.
All right. Love you, bye. Honestly, the first order of business, do you think we should do the maintenance of all of these things and then put the beds up? Because I can't even see where I'm putting them. Chop. You can't see behind me. So just a little while later, and my beds are all put together. I'm excited for where they are because I can come out and I can harvest herbs or little things whenever I need them, instead of having to traipse all the way back to the back gardens Now you notice that I put one directly in front of my house, and my house faces east. So the sun is going to rise up and then it's going to be shaded, especially this bed in the front. This one not as much, but that front bed is going to be shaded during the hottest part of the day, which I think is going to come in handy. I might be able to grow some greens there. I've been so unsuccessful in keeping greens going when it gets really hot out. So I'm excited about all of the possibilities. Now, this is the first half of the video. I'm gonna come back tomorrow and show you how I'm gonna fill these beds. And before I forget, the beds that I got from Vijayga are the 9-in-1 standard one, or upgrade. 9-in-1 was this front bed. And it obviously, I did the wider option, but you could do a long skinny one. And then this U-shaped bed I bought because it has the most capacity inside of it. So I can plant things all along the edge, and kind of every area is a different zone. So that long part in the back is going to be more shaded earlier than these parts in the front. So I'm excited to see the possibilities, but I'm going to be back with you tomorrow for more. Also, we cut down this giant bush. I hope she resprouts, but it was just too much. Doesn't it already look nice? And we cut the weeping cherry. We're cleaning her up a little bit at a time. Okay, BRB, see you tomorrow. Hey guys, I'm back. It's a couple days later. The beds are up, but now is the fun part. Now we get to fill it, possibly plant it, who knows. You can fill your beds a plethora of ways. If you're rich, you fill the whole thing with soil, topsoil that you buy from the store, and some good compost. I, however, like to be a little bit more crafty. I'm going to tell you how I would fill these and how I'm going to fill them. If you have been around gardening very long, you might have heard the term hugelkultur. Hugelkultur is an ancient way of gardening. I believe that it came from Germany, and it means hill culture or mound culture. Basically, you're going to make a mound. If I was doing this out in the open, which I am going to do some experiments of that later that I will show you, but not in this video. Basically, you're going to take big pieces of logs and sticks, wood, things that have high carbon and they're slow to break down, but once you soak them, they're going to act as a sponge in your beds, and which for one feeds all the microbial bacteria, the fungi in your soil. It gives them a home, and it also helps keep your bed from drying out. So here where I am, we have usually wet winters and dry summers. That has been the trend. Once in a while, we'll get a good year where it rains all summer, once a week, and you get enough water that you need. But here across at least America, and I'm sure lots of other places, our water isn't guaranteed anymore. And so I want to do the laziest thing possible, which means putting in work on the front end, but then that means less watering I have to do later. In the bottom of my beds, we need something to staunch the weeds. And I'm not even confident that this is going to control the thistle problem that I have here. They might still grow up through, but I'm gonna do what I can do. And the first step is to put a thick layer. I'm not doing single layer. I'm doing at least 2 layers of cardboard. You can hoard all of your boxes that y'all order off the internet on things. You can even use the box that Vijayga sends their garden beds in, because it says right here, it says it uses eco-friendly ink with non-toxic water-based ink. But you do want to make sure you peel off, as tedious as it is, you want to peel off all the tape, because it's a petroleum product and it's never going to degrade in your soil. You'll just have plastic tape at the bottom. Once you have the cardboard in the bottom of your bed, you are going to start to add your logs. For reference, this is the 17-inch tall. They come in 12, 17, and 32. You have to keep in mind, while the taller ones would be great if you're an older person with back problems or something and can't bend over as far, that is going to require more filler for your beds. The cardboard and the wood is completed, and the next step is going to be like sticks and branches. Now, I just recently trimmed this giant shrub down to the ground, so I'm going to use the sticks and leaves off of them. The third layer is complete, so it's cardboard, big logs. Now we're at the stick level. The next layer is where you want to add your nitrogenous items. So in composting terms, these are your green materials. This is going to help activate all of this carbon in here. It's going to help it start to break down. It's going to get all of those beneficial microbes, bacteria, and fungi up and alive. It gives them something to eat. So on my farm, you know what we have no shortage of? Manure. So that is going to be my item of choice. And I'm going to be right back with a tractor bucket. Actually, I'm not, but my husband is. One key thing that I forgot to mention, so do as I say, not as I do. When you put your wood layer in here, thoroughly water it. Especially if you do this in the springtime and not the wintertime. Where it's going to be dry. You want that wood to be thoroughly saturated with water so that it doesn't suck all the moisture out of your top layers. So there's that. This is Mercy, and she is the nibbiest of all of the cows. She's the only one that will let you love on her. Sometimes she's ornery like that, but she always wants to be in your business. If you're in here, she wants to know why you're in here and what you're doing. Don't you? On top of my manure layer, I always keep, not this bucket, usually it's slightly cleaner than this. I always keep a bucket in my kitchen, and while it's not aesthetically pleasing, it keeps me from putting anything organic, as in anything that was living at one time, and also paper that's not coated. I don't like to put things in the trash can if I can feed it to something else. In this case, I'm going to feed it to my gardens. But on any other occasion, I feed it to chickens, to pigs, to the dog, to the cats. Today, to the garden. Ow. And for the finale, almost, there's going to be a layer on top of this, but we're ready for compost. You can mix your compost with topsoil. I don't have any, so I'm going to be growing in straight compost. And I find that as long as your compost is very aged, you can grow in straight compost. I know a lot of people say that you can't. I have, I do, I will. Hank, you gotta keep your dog out of your food scraps first though. But your compost needs to be well aged. So this has been sitting all summer long. There is no remnants of any of the ingredients in it. It smells like dirt. It looks like dirt. It's ready to go. Also, my chickens have been getting all the weed seeds out because that's my biggest problem with my homemade compost is so many weed seeds. So fingers crossed there's not that many. a lot of you probably have a lot of questions about how to brew your own compost, if you will. It had been a complicated thought to me in the past as well. I mean, the first 2 years that I was here, I just put it in a pile, all the manure out of the barn and all the chicken shavings, and just let it set. But I'm here to tell you there are other ways. There are faster ways that you can make your own compost, and we will be making it together all winter long. I'm going to show you how in a different video, so that when spring rolls around, we have so much glorious compost for our gardens, we're not even going to know what to do with it all. If you're a true gardener, you will find uses for it all, though. When your compost is finished, it should resemble soil. It should smell earthy like dirt. It's okay that there's little tiny pieces, but you just don't want it to have big chunks in it that aren't finished breaking down. Because the main thing with fresh compost is it's using the nitrogen in the material to help break it down. And so when compost is too fresh and it's too hot, it's stealing the nitrogen away from your plants, which your plants won't do well. Now you can supersede this by feeding a high nitrogen feed, like a compost tea or a worm tea or something like that, to kind of offset the effects of your compost not being 100% ready. But we can dive deeper into that in the compost episode. Ta-da! We now have a completed and filled bed. You are going to want to make sure that you fill it all the way to the top, because it's going to settle a lot over time. Like by springtime, I'm going to guess this is going to be like 6 to 12 inches below where it's at right now. Starting gardens in fall is not the popular thing to do, but actually that's the easiest and best way to start your garden, because it can kind of relax and chill and settle in, and everything that you put into your soil can kind of start to work, and the freezing and thawing and the warming and cooling, all of these things are going to help start to break down the material in your beds. Well, if you get really cold like I do, it's going to go dormant anyway, but it has a time to mellow out before spring. Plus, by preparing your beds, whether they're in the ground or you're doing a raised bed like me, by doing it in the fall, it's ready in the spring, which means when the back of that seed packet says, as soon as your soil is workable, you don't have to wait to prep your bed. You don't have to wait to till. You don't have to wait till it's dry enough to get in there. You can just plant. So come March, when my ground is thawing out, I can plant my seedlings, of course, cold hardy things. Things like lettuce and radishes and beets and all of those things. When you're the most excited to get in the ground, you will be able to do it sooner than the people that procrastinate until spring. Now that your bed is filled, if you're not prepared to plant it, which many of us are going into the dormant season, so you want to cover your soil though. The earth is a modest lady, and she wants to be covered. Either you cover her with what you want her to be covered in, or she will cover herself, and you're probably not going to like what she covers herself with. So now is a great time to put a topping on your soil. So you can use straw, would be a great choice. You want to make sure that you get unsprayed straw. But if you don't have the ability to source straw or the means, you can use the free Hank. Excuse me. I'm talking here. Get down. Now is actually the perfect time to cover your bed and God's gift to you with the fallen leaves that are on the ground. They're here, there, and everywhere. Rake them out of your yard. Ask your neighbor if you can go rake their yard. For me, the majority of my leaves are in the woods. So I can go get endless amounts of leaves, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, I like to go by good, better, best. Good, in this instance, it's really better or best. So you can put your leaves straight on your bed, just the way they are. You don't want to do too thick because sometimes they can clump together, form a mat, and become anaerobic, which means that no oxygen is getting down to the underneath of the leaves, and it creates a stinky, yucky environment that's bacteria prone. So just a light dusting of leaves, enough to cover the surface, but not super thick. If you want to be the best, you can send those through your chipper shredder, which is like a little personal size shredder. And then or you can run them over with your lawnmower. You can cut them up if that's what you want to do. Just make them smaller pieces because they'll break down faster. Leaves actually take quite a long time to break all the way down. So if you wanted a finer material, you could shred them, which is probably what I'm gonna do. But honestly, I'm chomping at the bit to put something in here. Arugula is pretty cold hardy. Spinach is pretty cold hardy. I could seed both of these things right now, and actually I might. Now, if you didn't want failure to hurt your feelings, I would just mulch it for the winter, pick it back up in the spring. But I've always got a plethora of seeds, and I'm not scared to fail. And sometimes you just don't know unless you try. Now, today is November 11th, I think. This is probably the least, we're getting close to the least amount of sun we get all year, which is the winter equinox. So I don't have high hopes, but you never know. Plus, I'm kind of just doing this for you guys. I am going to sow right here in the front a patch. I'm gonna willy-nilly. This is arugula, so you are limited to the things that you can grow even if you were warm all year because the light levels are low unless you live close to the equator, and it doesn't really change for you. But that's, another lesson for another day. I am just going to sow I'm going to sow them really tightly, like they're going to be baby greens if they live. Just kind of rough them up in the soil. Did I say it? This is arugula. Then I'm going to try some radishes. Once again, these are quick growing things. So this says 21 days. I would give it an extra 15 probably. So maybe like 40 days we might have a radish. Who knows? Now, I'm not going to do a ton of this just because this is experimental. If I get something, we can celebrate together. If I don't, I'll tell you it failed. Now, to kind of give me a leg up, because like I said, we are going into our dormant season. It is usually cold here. It's not usually, it is cold here. So what I'm going to do, really, I want one of those clear totes, with the lid that you get, but I don't have one. What I do have is the drawer to one of my greenhouse thingamajigs. But by putting this on top of your soil, you are insulating your little seedlings in here, creating the greenhouse effect. So the sun is going to shine in here. It's going to be much warmer inside of this box than if I were to just leave it bare like this. And I do want to kind of push it in the soil so that it doesn't get blown away. I might even put a rock on top. As you can see around me, I've got lots of little critters who would love nothing more than to move that for me. But this is an idea. You can actually create like mini greenhouses all over outside and grow your own little microgreens outside. You can have salads all winter in one of these. If it gets warm out and the sun is out, you do want to vent it because just like a greenhouse, you can overheat your plants. But this is a great gardening on a budget hack because you can build a shelter over the top of these, and actually Vajayga has toppers for these. You can buy both insect netting, shade cloth, and like a mini greenhouse, but they don't fit on these L-shaped beds. You would have to have a long one or a wide. For my final step, I am going to top my beds with straw because that's what I have on hand, the easiest. And I know it wasn't sprayed with anything. I'm going to shake this out all over the top of my bed, tuck it in for winter, and pray that our strong winds don't blow all my straw off. I am going to water this in thoroughly just to kind of weigh down the straw so that it doesn't just blow away. Honestly, I might even top it with some chicken wire or something that I can find around here because I know that my chickens are going to love scratching all of this out of my bed. And I don't really want them to do that. Ta-da! My garden bed is complete. It looks beautiful up here in the front of the house. I only got just this one completed, but I'm going to do the other one that I have exactly the same way. If you're not good like me at resting, you don't have to. You can rest a little bit. It's good to rest a little. But if you are a gardener to your soul and you just cannot stop gardening, you can get one of these beautiful beds from Vajayga. There will be a discount code in the description of this video, and I'm pretty sure they're running some pretty good Black Friday deals right now if you are bored and want to shop or get them for the gardener in your life. So like I said earlier, this is the first of many installments of beautifying my front yard. And I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I will be taking you along on the journey. I am also starting a Patreon where I can share even more knowledge, even more fun facts. And actually, I have quit social media for the most part. I'm not on it daily because it just doesn't work with my brain type. I find myself every 2 seconds checking it. And I have a lot of work to do that doesn't involve scrolling. So, with that being said, I'm going to use my Patreon as my social media so that you guys can follow me along in what I do every day. That's where I'm going to share, instead of stories on Instagram or something, I am going to share my little fun, casual, not edited, probably half the time in my pajamas, video and picture of just little fun things that I do every day. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.